All right, well, welcome to the Oklahoma Weather Show, episode number 22. Here we are at beginning of June, June 4th. Certainly have gone through most of our severe weather season here in Oklahoma without a whole lot of severe weather, but we always know that it's out there somewhere, and certainly can't put our guard down. Joining us today, another repeat guest here. He was actually our very first guest that we ever had on episode number 1. That was felt like eons ago. Rick Smith, warning coordination meteorologist right down here in Norman. Brad Souter was in charge of bringing Rick on the show for today, kind of helping get this discussion going. We'll have more of our meteorologists from KOCO joining on throughout the show, but Brad, take it away.
Well, all right, Damon, hello to you. There goes Danielle popping up as we speak back at the station. Rick, we're thankful that you're joining us. It's been a long year. We've come a long way in a year. Of course, just now a year ago, May 2013, heck of a month for us. So for folks that are just joining us, some of the things we want to talk about today, we kind of want to reflect back over the last year, where we've been, where we're headed. Hey, Danielle. So we're going to look at that.
Anything.
We can hear you.
This is not good.
We can hear you, Danielle.
Yeah, we can hear you, Danielle.
I can't hear anything right now either.
Are
they talking?
Will,
well, hey, let me tell you what.
To Danielle.
I have no audio. I mean, maybe it's because I'm supposed to log in over here.
No, I think he always logs into that one.
I have no audio. Let's see here.
Technical difficulties. Running through some technical difficulties.
Obviously, doesn't drop an F-bomb or something, right?
All right.
I can't hear any of you guys.
Can you hear us, Danielle?
What's going on? I've got the earphones plugged into the tower down here, and I'm on the middle computer. I don't know if I should switch over to the other computer.
All right.
Okay. Well, Danielle will.
Why don't I text Danielle?
Yeah. Let's let me.
All right.
Get Danielle.
Dozier, stop talking. All right. Danielle, we can hear everything you're saying.
This is funny. They say I'm hot, but I can't hear myself, so I have no idea what's going on.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's just
on here.
Let's just continue, Brad.
All right, let's get right into this. Hopefully,
do you guys have any suggestions?
We'll realize
what's going on
she
over on my
can
end?
hear us. And so, Rick, if we can, let's talk about a year ago. What we had a year ago in Oklahoma and where we are today. I know it's been a really long year. What's different today than May 2013?
Well, I've gotten a lot more sleep. It's been a lot less active, thankfully. It's been a busy year, and I've told people over and over again that it seems like May of 2013 never really stopped. It never really ended. We've been either reviewing what happened, or talking about what happened, or going to conferences and workshops and traveling all over the country talking about what happened, and that continues. It was nice to get the anniversaries past us in the past couple of weeks, especially the May 20th and the May 31st, and kind of have a sense of now moving on. But we're going to be living those events for quite a while. I mean, that was, as you guys know very well, it took a lot out of everybody in the community, and especially people who had anything to do with weather. I mean, we were just bombarded with event after event. I've never been through a stretch of a period of weather like that before in my career, and I don't want to go through it again. But what we've been trying to do, and I kind of got, Damon and I kind of chatted about this a while back. We're doing a lot of talks and doing a lot of presentations about this, and what I'm trying to do more and more now is, instead of dwelling on, well, look how many people passed away, or look how all these bad things happened, we're really trying to push ahead and say, talk about the positive things, try to find the positive things, and we've been trying to do this since after the event, try to make the best of a bad situation. What can we do to make things better based on what happened last year? So instead of just dwelling on all the horrible things that happened, and there were lots of horrible things, we don't want to diminish that. we're just trying to move on. So but we've got presentations and trips scheduled all the way into early next year to continue to talk about this. So it's going to be a item of interest for a while.
If you're just joining us, this is Rick Smith from the National Weather Service office. He's the warning coordinating meteorologist. We had to cut off the first part of our chat today. There were some technical issues, so this is Rick Smith. We're thankful that you're here, Rick. This is it's been a wild year, and this year, my goodness, you were talking about this was the most busy time of you've ever had in your career last May. Now, this previous May, would you say this is the quietest May that you've been through? I think it was, what, 2005 that there wasn't a single tornado in Oklahoma? Was that right?
Yeah, I've actually been through one May that was quieter tornado-wise in 2005. That's the only time that we have in recorded history that there's been no tornadoes in the state. Preliminary numbers for this past May are 3, so we got through it very quietly, and I think we all needed that. I think we, the meteorologists, needed that, and certainly the communities needed that. I don't want to get too cocky and too excited and saying, hey, it's done. It's never done in Oklahoma. I mean, we can have busy Junes and we can have situations set up, and as we always say, it only takes one tornado to ruin your year. So I don't want to get too excited, and if you hear me knocking during the talk, it's knocking on wood here. People getting onto us on Twitter for jinxing things about talking about how quiet it's been. But
well, let's talk about
May is over, and May was a very quiet month.
It was indeed. Well, let's talk a little bit about this coming weekend. Have you had a chance to look the last couple of days at kind of the setup that's been going on?
This is one thing that drives my family crazy. I'll come home from work, and they'll say, "What's the weather?" And sometimes I'll say, I don't really know. And I haven't looked a lot, and I haven't looked in detail. There's so much other stuff going on. What does a meteorologist do if you're not looking at weather? Well, there's lots of stuff, as you guys know. I haven't looked at a lot. I do know that there's a potential for kind of one of our typical June patterns that we sometimes get into, where we have these complexes of thunderstorms that develop up over western Kansas, and then they move down into our area. It looks like we're going to have an opportunity for that, several days of that. Good news with that is more rain.
Yeah.
I wish we could shift the forecast rain area a little bit down to cover more of that, really the hardest hit drought area down in southwest Oklahoma. Heard our buddy Lloyd on a couple of weeks ago talking about that, and Gary recently too, but it looks like it's going to be busy. I'm hoping the severe weather will be on the lower end of the spectrum, but we can never let your guard down.
Gosh, the 70-mile-per-hour wind-driven golf ball hail can do, that can disrupt so much. So let's hope that it's just that plain old rain. And
yeah, there were some incredible pictures out of the storms up in Nebraska.
Oh my goodness!
Yesterday with homes, the siding of homes, just like you said, you get the 70, 80-mile-an-hour winds and in that hail, it's just like it'll destroy things.
And so many people just say, "Oh, good, you're not forecasting tornadoes, at least not at this point for the weekend." But a hailstorm can do $500 million in damage if it hit the right part of the city, and so hopefully we don't have that.
Yeah, I mean, we had one in May of 2010, I think it was, that kind of cut right through the metro area and did millions of dollars worth of damage. So it doesn't have, tornadoes get all the attention, but there's lots of other things that we need to be concerned about as well.
I would definitely say that Oklahoma City knows a thing or two about some gigantic hailstorms coming through. So, Rick, what does the warning coordination meteorologist do when we're in a quiet, severe weather season? I know you've been busy lately.
Well, that's a great question. The job of a warning coordination meteorologist, it's kind of like we're kind of like the sales and marketing department, or the external affairs department of the Weather Service. Regardless of what time of year it is, we're always trying to get ready for the next whatever it's going to be, the next tornado outbreak, the next severe weather. So we're doing things like working with you guys to come up with better ways to share weather information. We are working here in the office doing training, running our forecasters through one of the new things we did this year for the first time is social media drills. So we have our weather event simulator in the office where we can run forecasters through a severe weather event, and they can issue warnings, and they don't really go anywhere, but it's like it's displaced real-time kinds of simulations. We did that this year for social media for this. So there's forecasters in our office who may not be as comfortable doing Twitter and Facebook as others, so we kind of ran them through an exercise to do that. Doing presentations. Just yesterday I attended a Intertribal Emergency Management Coalition meeting and did a talk about the May tornadoes, and and plus I'm part of the management team here in the office, so there's always administrative things. We just got to hire a meteorologist intern within the last couple of weeks, and that position's been vacant for almost 2 years now. So
Wow.
there's always something going on.
Was that because of the freeze, the hiring freeze from the government, or just budget constraints that you weren't able to hire that?
I think yes, all the above. I think it was a combination of all of that. But slowly those wheels are starting to turn, and we're feeling we've been in better shape than than a lot of other Weather Service offices have been. So I'm not complaining too much.
Let me ask, actually, that's a good question. I do want to kind of branch out from that, because within the last couple months, USAJobs.gov or whatever it was had a flock of just new weather listings. Is Norman kind of the weather office that a lot of people want to go to, or what are the popular offices?
Looking at job listings, Damon, is there something we need to?
When you're on Twitter, I mean, it's kind of hard. There was a day when it just flocked all the way, when Twitter was just filled with this. But in television, there are weather markets that a lot of meteorologists want to go to. Oklahoma City probably being the very top of that. And then there are some weather markets that not many people want to come to. Is Norman kind of the same way? Is it a very popular place to apply?
It is, and we had for that one vacancy that we actually had about 150 applications that we got that they forwarded to us. That's probably not all of them, because it goes through a process where they're rated and ranked and things like that before they ever get to us. But there are similar stories for offices that don't traditionally get a lot of applicants. Brownsville, Texas, for example, and Lake Charles, Louisiana, and Bismarck, North Dakota. They got similar numbers of applicants. It's been so long since there's been a bunch of openings and these are jobs for people just graduating from college. These are entry-level, first job in the Weather Service positions, meteorologist interns, we call them.
Now, is the pay set for an intern, for maybe the students listening, is there for a meteorologist intern going to Norman or going to Bismarck, is an intern position pay the same for the National Weather Service, or is it different?
There are certain places across the United States that get what's called locality pay, and that's not really Weather Service driven. That's driven by the Office of Personnel Management. That's the whole government. So if you work in a government job in Washington, D.C. or in Miami, Florida, you get paid a little bit differently than I do here in Norman, just because of the cost of living, and I don't know what all goes into it. But basically, it's the same. Basically, you come in at the same amount, but yeah, we had a lot of applicants, and I can tell you one thing: I'm thankful that I'm not applying for an intern job with this crop of people, because goodness gracious, it was incredible. The amount of talent, the amount of skills out there, the education, the GIS skills, man, I'd be in trouble if I was competing with these folks, because there are
what do you need?
Sharp meteorologists out there.
Differential equations.
Yeah, all that stuff. I mean, if you had to dig down. And it was interesting filling these vacancies, because a lot of other Weather Service offices were filling the same vacancies from the same pool of people. So it was a very unique situation where but even if you had to go down to the 15th person on your list, you're still getting a top-notch candidate. So one thing this has done is give me a real optimistic outlook for the future of the Weather Service, because gosh, we just picked up a lot of really, really sharp people.
How do you determine a top-notch candidate? I mean, does the Weather Service ask for grades from these students? Do they look at some sort of test they have to take? I mean, where do you decipher?
It's a federal employment application process, and this USAJobs.gov is the website, and anybody can go on there and poke around and look. But there are certain qualifications for each job. So for a meteorologist intern, you have to have at least a bachelor's degree and completed all the coursework, as Danielle mentioned, differential equations and calculus and all the physics and all the
Fun stuff.
meteorology courses. There's a bare minimum of set of standards that you have to do. And then that you submit a transcript, and then you just you fill out your resume and your application based on your job experience, whether you volunteered while you were in college, or whether you interned at a TV station, whether you work for a private company. And then I don't know the magic that happens once it gets submitted, and before we get it, there's some grading and ranking that goes on based on all of those factors: experience, grade point average, degree, whether you have a master's or bachelor's degree. So, and then we get a list of candidates after that process.
Sounds a little bit competitive, to say the least.
Super competitive. Yeah.
Well, good. That's good. It means we're getting the best people, the top people.
Right.
Hey, listen, Rick, you tell me that you're working with the state health department to see where people sheltered for the May 20th tornado, specifically where the EF4 and EF5 homes were hit. What are some of the findings that you guys? Is this a beginning process, or where are you guys on this, and what are you discussing?
Well, it's an interesting thing. Those, I know some of you attended the Tornado Summit back earlier this year, and some of you may have heard about it, but the Oklahoma Department of Health, after all the big tornado events that we have here, especially in the metro area, will usually go and do some studies on injuries. The injury prevention part of the health department looks at, what were people doing in the tornado, why were they injured, why were they killed, to try to give them and us information on what we can do, what we can tell people to do differently or better the next time this happens. So part of their research, what they're doing is they have done, we provided them with a GIS version of the tornado path, the tornado track, and they actually did some targeted surveys of people in that area, and they are asking them a lot of different questions. How did you get a warning? Were you watching Damon Lane or someone else? No, I don't think they asked that, but they were, how did you get the warning? Weather radio, social media, and then they asked questions about, were you in your home? If you were in your home, do you have a shelter? If you don't have a shelter, where did you go? Did you run away in your car? All kinds of things like that. So they are gathering information like that, and at the same time, I've also gone and plotted. We essentially did a house-to-house, house-by-house, door-to-door survey of the May 20th tornado. We don't usually get to do that, but we did that using a variety of methods. So we have, I forget what the number is. It's under 370 something houses that suffered EF4 or EF5 damage. And so what we're trying to do, if I could wave a magic wand and have my wish, I would know what was going on in every single one of those houses. So we're trying to piece all that together. Some of the most interesting things we're finding are that, contrary to popular belief, you can very much survive a violent EF4, EF5 tornado above ground. Lots and lots of people did it. Lots of people survived in bathtubs, closets. Some people survived hugging onto the refrigerator in the kitchen, in the living. I mean, there's all kinds of interesting stories that are out there of what people were doing and how they survived. So we're hoping that after we look at more of this data, we'll get some, we want to, there's a lot of discomfort, or a lot of people are not as easy as they used to be about what to do in a tornado after last year. People think that the tornadoes are worse than they've ever been, or something was different with these tornadoes, or nothing that we've ever been taught is ever going to work again, and that's just not true. So we're trying to look at all of that and trying to come up with some information that will help support that idea.
Rick, one thing I want to ask you about, you, myself, a bunch of media here in Oklahoma City, we were part of the governor's task force to help implement new severe weather safety skills across the state. She revealed her plan about a month ago. Are we the only state in the United States that actually is working with the governor, or do you know a lot of other states that actually have that type of relationship, that they're doing what we just pushed out this past month?
I think that kind of thing goes on informally or formally all over the country. The Weather Service, we're one member, and you guys are another member of this thing we call the Integrated Warning Team. when days like May 20th, when we have successes like May 20th, despite the tragedies that happen, it's only because this integrated warning team worked. We cannot do our jobs without you guys. I don't think you guys would really want to do your jobs without us. You don't have to admit this in public here.
Absolutely.
Just nod, blink, something. And we certainly, none of us could do it without the people in the local communities, the emergency managers, the people with sirens. So all over the country there are these integrated warning teams that get together and talk about things like this. This was a unique circumstance here because of all the events that happened last May, and there was just a lot of interest and almost a demand for, what are we supposed to do in a tornado? And we know from lots of research and from working with social scientists that people respond. People will do what we want them to do a lot more if we're giving a consistent message. So we didn't always have a consistent message last May when we were telling people what to do or telling people what actions to take. So I don't think it's unusual what we've done. It's certainly unusual to have a governor leading a task force. I'm not aware of anywhere else that's happened. Something similar happened, I guess, after the winter storm in Atlanta back in January or February. I think the governor organized a task force to look at what happened with that event. But I think it's a really positive thing, and I think it's really cool that we're all trying to work together because we're all on the same team. Our goal is all the same.
I hope we are. I mean, I really hope everybody feels that way, the same as we do in working with the National Weather Service. It's not always clear whether that's the case, but I completely agree. Unified message, especially during severe weather situations. I mean, sure, for forecasting temperatures or some snow here and there, as long as it's not too big of a deal, when lives are at stake, the consistent message is key.
Yeah, because what we hear and what we've seen, and we're working more and more than ever with social scientists who are more experts in this than I am. People don't just respond to a warning. They don't just respond to one thing. Usually they're going to seek additional information. They're going to want confirmation. If Damon or Danielle or Brad or Jonathan or whoever on your station says there's a tornado coming, people may very well flip channels, or they may very well go look out the window, or they may get on Facebook or Twitter to see if anybody else is talking about it. So the more that we're all saying the same thing in those critical life and death situations, personally I couldn't care less about, if you guys are saying it's going to be 92 and we're saying it's going to be 90, who cares? That doesn't matter. What matters is when those life and death situations, we can't have a message that confuses people, because what happens when people don't get a consistent message from the different sources is they'll kind of freeze sometimes, and they go, well, this guy's telling me to do this and this person's saying I should do that. I don't know what to do, and then they do nothing. So we don't want that.
Rick, let me just jump in real quick. Rick, what do you think you're going to do differently on the next big weather day that you didn't do last May 20th or May 31st?
That is probably the most frequently asked question, and the one it's still the hardest to answer, because I don't really know. I mean, I don't want to say that we did everything perfectly, so we don't need to change anything. We can always change something and do something better. But that's I think about that all the time. Ever since last year, what would we do different? I mean, every situation is so different than the one before it. I mean, we would certainly be there trying to pump out as much information as possible and get the word out, and you never feel like you did enough, but there's things we probably would tweak a few things with social media, the way we handled that. I mean, we were very proactive in putting stuff out in social media, but we weren't as interactive as we could have been, essentially because we just had one person doing all that social media at one time. So little things like that, but it's there's always room for improvement. What about you? What would you guys do different?
That's a good question. I think, obviously, I know that we spent so much time, focusing on the tornado threat, especially on May 31st, and I know that, the public at home was really, really sensitive to the tornado potential on May 31st because of what had happened on May 20th, and we kind of pushed the flash flooding threat kind of under the carpet. Definitely probably address both warnings. And especially the flooding warning if it's coming into the metro. We're probably going to push that a lot harder now. Obviously, get away from the whole got to be underground. You need to be underground, and even finding a way in which we can engage through social media a lot more because. Last year there was so much coming through with Twitter and Facebook and everything that I didn't a lot of the tweets that people had sent me I didn't get to respond to them probably as quickly as I would have liked just because of everything that was going on. So trying to find a way to work that in a little bit more. I mean, you look back now, and obviously, you can say, oh, I like to do this better, this better. Hopefully we don't have to worry about that anytime soon. But we know that threat is always going to be out there. So there's a lot that I know the media can work on, and I hope that we can all be on the same page. Obviously we can't control what the other stations are going to say, but I hope that with time we can kind of become more unified on those big weather days.
Right.
I think for me in the morning, just the day of, just being as direct with people as possible. Just telling them, not trying to scare anybody, but telling them, not trying to sugarcoat anything either. If it's a major outbreak day, we need to tell them that. Rather than just saying, hey, a few tornadoes. I don't want to underdo it, but you can't overdo it either. So it's just a tough dance, and it's probably a dance we're always going to have to do, just with making sure people have the right message and respond. I think you, Rick, you were saying a second ago that you don't necessarily know a whole lot of what you would do different, because I was following what you were doing. The day of May 20th, May 31st, and all the days in between. And, I mean, you had signs on billboards and social media, don't be on the roads at this time. I mean, what more can we do to be more direct with people in some ways? And it's kind of maddening to see people not listening to that message, to have cars backed up on area roads when the billboard has said, don't be driving past this time, and you're like, holy cow, nobody's listening. What is going on? So that's kind of a frustrating moment when even you tell everybody all these things and they still go and do something else.
Yeah, and that was without a doubt the most frustrating period of time or moment in my entire career. That night on May 31st. Turning around, looking at the television screens and seeing headlights dead stopped on the interstate, and there are various reasons why that happened, and I know Damon was being super aggressive too, saying be off the road by 4 o'clock. I think we had a very consistent message going on with that. We worked with ODOT to get messages up on the signs, so that's very frustrating and it's discouraging in a way, but as I look through other things that happen at the events, I'm also encouraged to know that people are hearing what you're saying and people are hearing what we're saying. They're hearing parts of it, because a lot of people hear that message. If you tell people you're going to die if you're not below ground, people hear that and react to it. So that gives me hope that if we say the right things in the right way, people are at least capable of hearing it and understanding it and acting on it. It's not like they're sitting on their couch going, well, I'm not going to do anything. So that, again, I'm trying to spin everything in a positive way. There is I think we have something to work with here that we can build on. The trick is just saying the right thing. And it's on a day like the 19th and the 20th and the 31st, those are very rare days, and those are days where we don't use words like we did then every day. That's in case of emergency, break glass kind of thing, or 2 people turn a key to launch the missile kind of thing. And we treat that very seriously. one of the reasons I'm glad we got through May and especially got through the school year for most people this year is we didn't have to deal with any of that, and we didn't have to worry about using those strong words this past May.
And Rick, you're absolutely right when you were saying, hey, it's good that people in a way do listen to the message. Otherwise, they wouldn't be out on the roads. I think what's good, Rick, is that, and Damon and Danielle, is that people do respond to the warnings. Clearly, they responded. What they did, the wrong thing. So they're willing to respond to these warnings. I think if maybe the clarification for them of how to respond and what they need to do when, I mean, everybody was scared to death May 31st. There's no doubt about it. People were terrified. Whenever you have a tornado emergency for Oklahoma City, it's not a good day, especially after what happened May 20th. So people are willing to respond. People are willing to do something. We just need to kind of help them do the right thing and be in the right spot.
Right.
Can I go ahead and ask something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't know, because I was having mic issues earlier, so I wasn't sure if you guys could, if I was too loud or not. But okay, so sorry. So I kind of wanted to branch off just a little bit of the severe weather because we're all meteorologists, and Rick, you're a meteorologist, obviously. A very interesting article came out regarding hurricanes. I don't know if you had a chance to read it, but it was published in the National Academy of Sciences, and we had the University of Illinois and Arizona State University did this research, did this study for everyone that might not be familiar, saying that people don't respond, or people have not in the past responded to female-named hurricanes, and thus more people have been getting killed in response because they think, okay, Superstorm Sandy, it's Sandy, that's a girl's name, so we're not going to take action. What do you think about something like this? I just thought it was a really interesting study, and I know we're kind of more of a severe weather-driven storm state, but what do you have to say about this?
I don't buy any of it because Sandy is also a guy's name, so it's invalid. No,
Katrina, then, for instance, I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't read it in detail, but I have heard people talking about it, and I know there's some concerns with the research, the methodology. I don't know anything about it, any of the details, but one of the concerns I have is we only started naming. When did we start using male names for hurricanes? Like 19.
It's in the 60s, wasn't it?
It was back
the 70s.
1970s.
In the 70s, yeah. So we only, we're not, you can't really use any data before that because you didn't have male names before that, and I don't know. It's hard for me to believe that makes a difference at all. But like I said, I'm not really familiar with the research to know for sure.
Gotcha.
Danielle, and I think it was actually Danielle a couple days ago that she did a Facebook poll on what's your definition of a severe storm.
Yesterday.
And I saw that, and so I was going through it, and a lot of times we'll get people messaging us on Twitter, Facebook, saying, the storm is so bad, why aren't you cutting in? And then I look, and it's not a severe storm. One thing that we've been trying to change a lot at KOCO is doing a lot more impact forecasting rather than just weather forecasting there, Rick. And one thing I've noticed is that there might be a thunderstorm that moves right on through. Now, the meteorological definition, hail, winds, etc. But the driver on the road who's driving through this thunderstorm doesn't care about that, and that if he has to pull over on the side of the road, or if he has to go from 55 miles per hour down to 25 miles per hour, and his windshield wipers are going as fast as possible, then that to him is a severe storm, even though technically it's not in the definition. Is there any way in the future that you think the Weather Service is going to branch out and do some impact forecasting?
Well, we're trying to do some of that now. I mean, we're trying to do more of that. Our impact-based warnings that we began participating in earlier this year, that's kind of one of the things that they're geared to do for severe thunderstorms, for example. mentioning the hail size and wind speed and all that. That doesn't help people in those non-severe thunderstorms, though. I've been a proponent for a long time of just tell people what's going to happen. We're very segmented in the Weather Service, and you kind of have to be to some extent. We have this box is a severe thunderstorm warning, and this box is a tornado warning, and we don't really have a good way to talk about storms that aren't severe. We can put out a significant weather advisory, and you guys can do your heavy storms on the map and things like that. But the philosophy should be, just tell people what's going to happen, and the severe criteria makes a difference to us whether we issue a warning or not, and to you whether your map turns yellow on the screen or whether you do a cut-in. But like you said, if you get the criteria for a severe thunderstorm is 58 mile-an-hour winds. Well, if you get 55 mile-an-hour winds, that's still going to be a problem. If you get 6 inches of pea-size hail, that's going to be a problem. Lightning, heavy rain. I mean, I didn't get to read through all your poll responses, but I bet people have widely varying definitions of what they call severe weather.
Well, I just learned here too, Rick, that quarter hail is not severe because the diameter of a quarter is 0.95 inches.
Yeah.
We've all been wrong.
We've all been We've been doing it wrong.
Brought to our attention during our telethon this past.
Yeah, I heard that too.
And we're scientists and we're the government and we come up with these definitions, and you have to have some definitions. You have to have some, this is technically a severe thunderstorm, but I'd like to see us continue to move more and more, and I like what you guys are doing, and I've seen other people doing similar things where they just talk about, instead of just painting a huge blob of yellow on a map and saying there's a risk of severe weather between now and 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, I think we can do better. I think we can nail down the times better. I think we can nail down the threats better. There's days where hail and wind are the big threats. There's days where, tornadoes are going to be a bigger threat. So, I think we just need to, and we're doing a much better job than we ever have, but we just need to keep going on communicating those. Just tell people what we think is going to happen.
Do you think we need to go to like a color-coded system? I think is it in Canada or in Europe where they use colors to reflect the type of weather coming in? Green means go, red means bad. And when we put up on a weather map, something that's in red, it gets a lot more attention. You put something in green, not so much. Has there been any talk about maybe going in that route in the future?
There's been a lot of talk in that. The Weather Service has worked with people that are experts in those fields, in geography and in some of the social sciences. And I was just reading a study that came out today in the National Weather Association about, or I just saw it posted today, about colors. What colors people respond to in radar imagery? Do they respond to a whole rainbow of colors or shades of green? Or so there is research being done into that, and I think Storm Prediction Center in their outlooks has looked into some of the colors and is looking at some of that. We've been trying to do a better job in the spirit of consistency to really try to stick with them and try to stick with you guys too in this yellow, for severe especially, this yellow, orange, red. Again, if we're all doing kind of the same colors, I think that works better. But yeah, I think. We struggle with it because we do a lot of graphics, and we just went through a thing this past winter where we really tried to solidify or consolidate what all the different forecasters are doing, because one forecaster would draw graphics showing expected rainfall potential, and they would be in shades of blue. The next shift would do it in shades of green. So we're trying, in our office here in Norman, we're trying to standardize what we're doing. So if we're talking about liquid rain, we're using green. If we're talking about sleet, we're using the same colors you guys do, kind of that
Fuchsia.
Fuchsia, that's it. I was going to say purple, but it wasn't purple. So yeah, there's work that's definitely being looked at both individually at our office and in the Weather Service as a whole.
I want to say another thing real quick. Just another thing on that Facebook poll that I realized when I was reading some of the responses, and it kind of goes back to what you guys were saying at the beginning of the conversation. that when you ask somebody what a severe storm consists of, many people's thoughts are tornado, and that's the only thing that they think about. And so I think the message that we're trying to get across here to everyone at home is very similar to what you guys do, which is that there are other impacts, as Damon said. So there is the large hail that can be wind driven and cause serious damage to your car, to your house. We saw that in Nebraska, things like that. So I think that's a big push, is to tell people that it's not just a tornado. I mean, you can have straight line winds out of severe thunderstorms that can do just as much damage as well, for instance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
We had Lloyd Colston on, who you know, a couple weeks ago from Altus, and he was reminding us how low Lake Altus was. I guess 10% water left in it, or Lake Lugert. Is that how you say it? Some folks know that. And you're going, and we know just over the border in Texas, the drought is actually worse. So you're meeting in Wichita Falls here. Is it later this month or next month?
Yeah, it's later in June. Actually, this is a forum that's being put together by some people at our regional headquarters, some water resources people, to kind of look at, speaking about impacts, what the impacts of this lack of water are going to be. I mean, they're in serious trouble down in the Wichita Falls area and far southwest Oklahoma as far as water, more so in Wichita Falls. I know Lloyd said that, they're not as concerned, or that's it's not as much of an emergency type situation as far as running out of water. But Wichita Falls is a slightly different story. So we're getting together with some climatology people and some water resources people to meet with all the people that want to come to the meeting down there in late June. I'll have to find the details, but to talk about this, because tornadoes and flooding get all the attention, and winter storms get all the attention, but this drought is a huge disaster, and it's ongoing, and it's just it's easy for it to get pushed to the back burner, and it's almost invisible in many ways. It's not as glamorous or as exciting as some of the other weather we've been talking about, but it's a huge deal. So I think this meeting is going to be important to, I don't think we talk enough about this.
heat and humidity also a big deal.
Yes.
And that's coming on fast.
Is this getting a lot of talk, or is this kind of one of those I'll believe it when I see it?
Yes, both of the above. I think there's, I think there was a lot more I'll believe it when I see it with the
last
storm
one
that we had recently with all the rain.
And it happened.
The forecast, and it happened. So I think this time it's a little bit, okay, well, we know it can happen. Maybe, I saw there was like a 10.7-inch bullseye up in southwest Missouri.
That's kind of bad. We don't quite want that much.
And we actually got a call from...
I get really scared when we put these maps out, because this is such a water-sensitive state. But after 4 days of just seeing, these repeated high rainfall amounts, you're thinking, well, maybe this is going to verify, hopefully.
Yeah. And even if it's only half of what's forecast, I mean, that's going to be good. But we actually got a phone call a little while ago from one of our partners in a local city government that had seen a graphic like that and was concerned that they didn't really understand the time period that covered. They said, we're going to get 6 inches of rain. That's going to be a problem. Well, we're not going to get 6 inches of rain, I don't think, overnight or in one morning. That's a 5. I think that graphic you just showed was a 7-day QPF. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like when you're, forecasting a big severe weather event. You really don't want to get people too excited about it unless they really need to be. With rain, you really don't want to get people excited about the rain unless you're pretty confident in it. So, whether those amounts will verify, how that works. That doesn't always, it's never going to be exact, but it's sure looking like somebody's going to get some more really good rain.
It was pretty accurate Monday morning. Just they had like up to 4 inches or so in northern Oklahoma on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What I think is really interesting, I guess it was about 3 weeks ago, the 30-day climate outlook from the CPC. It had above normal rain for June for us. Mm-hmm. So it's verifying. I mean, it's quite interesting. It was, I guess, the end of May and June, and of course, the end of May very wet for us, and now this first part of June it's looking great. So it's nice to see that happen.
That's saying a lot for the wettest month of the year. You know, if you look at Climo and then they put that map out, you know,
that's
so
right.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, because this is the, you know, May and June are the wet months, and that, you know, to say that's going to be above normal, and you know, I think the skill in those forecasts has been, or those outlooks has been pretty good. So let's hope. You know,
it's amazing. You know, we had
you just never know when the spigot's going to shut off this time of year, and
at least it finally started.
When the rain's going to be the last one.
Hadn't rained at all through May 20th. I mean, I think what I did, I found the math that it was the driest we'd been since an 1895 spell through about May 20th, driest start to a year, which was a huge issue if it didn't start raining. So, you know, now that it is, much, much better.
Yeah, I think Gary McManus was saying, what, the driest start since like 1890 something or something like that?
1895 is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gary is like I mean, he's like a walking dictionary. He can give you stats, you know, just like that, and yeah. So, well,
he's great.
Anything else y'all want to add to this? I know we're getting to that 45-minute benchmark. Brad, Danielle.
Well, no, I'm just Rick. I guess I'll see you on Weather Brains here now, right? You're a regular panelist on the show.
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking, but
I think
I got invited to participate in that, and that's a huge honor. I mean, it's I couldn't let them know that I was going to be on this program today, though, because of the competition thing. But no, it's a real honor. They're a great group of people, and you know, your shows are very similar, and I really commend you guys for doing what you're doing. I mean, this is very unique, and I think it's you know, if you're not familiar with Weather Brains, it's a national kind of version of this. It's a podcast, and it's done via Google Hangout, but then it's available, you know, later to listen to, and there's, you know, a real cast of characters on there. But it's all about weather, and this is all about weather. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm excited to be a part of the team.
Now, is that a James Spann bobblehead behind you?
I was wondering that.
That is, no, I haven't gotten James to give me a bobblehead. That is actually a Dave Brown bobblehead. Dave is the chief meteorologist at WMC TV in Memphis, the NBC affiliate. That's where I grew up. All my family lives there. I knew, you know, I watched Dave my whole life, and I ran into him at a broadcasters conference a couple of years ago, and yeah, so that's. But no, I need to add a James Spann. And when's there going to be a KOCO collection of bobbleheads?
I don't know. I don't know if they got that in the budget, but we did increase our budget. We'll send you some stuff for coming on today's show. So, well, thank you so much, Brad. It's kind of fun just to be able to just kind of talk about all things weather, and you know, just kind of see where the conversation takes us. So, but Rick, we appreciate you coming on. I'm pretty sure we'll have you on sometime a little bit later down the road.
Thanks so much for having me. Enjoyed it.